The sky over Britain wasn't just filled with clouds. It was filled with fear. Every morning, families looked up, not to check the weather, but to see if today was the day bombs would fall on their homes. Imagine hearing a distant hum, growing louder, until the entire sky begins to vibrate. You run outside, and then you see them. Hundreds of enemy aircraft, black dots swallowing the sun. This wasn't just a battle. This was survival. A small island, standing alone against one of the most powerful war machines the world had ever seen. And the only thing standing between total destruction were a few hundred young pilots. Boys, really. Some barely out of school. No guarantee they'd make it back. No second chances. Just sky, steel, and death. This is the story of the Battle of Britain, the air war that decided the fate of the world. And once you hear what really happened up there, you'll never look at the sky the same way again. It was the summer of 1940. Europe had already fallen. One by one, countries collapsed under the unstoppable force of Hitler's army. France gone. Poland gone. The Netherlands gone. Britain was next. But Britain had one advantage: water. The English Channel stood like a thin line between survival and invasion. But that line could be erased, because Hitler didn't need to cross the sea first. He needed to control the sky. If the German Air Force, the Luftwaffe, could destroy Britain's air defenses, nothing would stop the invasion. No air cover, no protection, no hope. And that's when it began. At first, it didn't feel like a full-scale war. Just distant explosions, occasional sirens. People tried to continue their lives. Shops stayed open. Kids played in the streets. But deep down, everyone knew something was coming. Something big. Then one morning, the radar operators saw it. Blips. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. Moving fast. Coming straight toward Britain. And suddenly, everything changed. In airfields across the country, pilots were scrambling. Engines roared to life. Mechanics shouted over the noise. Young men ran toward their aircraft, some still buttoning their jackets, some still chewing their breakfast. No time to think. No time to be afraid. Because once they got in the air, fear could kill them. These weren't superhumans. They were ordinary people. Farm boys. Students. Dreamers. Some had never even been in a real fight before. But now, they were the last line of defense. As they climbed into the sky, they could already see them. The enemy. Endless formations of German bombers, escorted by fast, deadly fighter planes. The sky was no longer blue. It was filled with machines and tension. And then, it happened. The first shots were fired. The sound of machine guns tearing through the air. Engines screaming at full power. Planes diving, twisting, chasing each other through the clouds. This wasn't organized. It wasn't clean. It was chaos. Pure chaos. Imagine flying at hundreds of kilometers per hour, with bullets ripping past your cockpit. One mistake, 1 second of hesitation, and you're gone. No parachute can save you at that speed if you're hit too low. No time to say goodbye. Pilots described it as a blur. A terrifying, fast-moving blur of noise, smoke, and flashes of light. You'd lock onto an enemy plane, pull the trigger, and hope. Hope your aim was true. Hope your plane didn't stall. Hope someone wasn't already behind you. Because that was the worst part. You couldn't see everything. At any moment, another fighter could appear behind you, and it would be over before you even realized it. Back on the ground, people watched. Tiny dots in the sky, twisting and colliding. White trails of smoke marking the paths of battle. And sometimes the plane would fall, spinning, burning, crashing into the earth. And everyone would hold their breath. Was it one of ours? Or theirs? For the pilots, there was no time to process. No time to mourn. Because the next wave was already coming. Day after day, the attacks continued. Relentless. Exhausting. The Luftwaffe kept coming, trying to break Britain's defenses. Targeting airfields, radar stations, factories, anything that could weaken the Royal Air Force. And slowly, the pressure began to show. Airfields were damaged. Planes were lost. Pilots were disappearing. Some didn't return. Others returned, but barely. Planes riddled with bullets. Engines failing. Faces pale with shock. There were moments, quiet ones, between battles. Pilots sitting together, not talking much, just staring, thinking, because they knew, tomorrow, it could be them who doesn't come back. One pilot wrote in his journal, "I don't feel like a hero. I feel like a man trying to stay alive." And yet, they kept going. Every single day, climbing back into their planes, facing the sky again. Because if they didn't, everything would fall. Then something changed. The German strategy shifted. Instead of targeting airfields, they turned towards cities, towards civilians. London became the target. And that's when the sky turned into something even more terrifying. Night after night, sirens wailed. Families rushed into shelters. Children clung to their parents. And then, the bombs fell. The ground shook. Buildings collapsed. Fires spread through entire neighborhoods. The sky glowed red. Imagine sitting in the dark, underground, hearing explosions above you, not knowing if your home still exists, not knowing if you'll have anything left when you come out. But even then, even after nights of destruction, people emerged, covered in dust, tired, but alive, and they didn't give up. They cleaned the streets, rebuilt what they could, and waited for the next night. Meanwhile, the air war continued, relentless. But here's what the Germans didn't realize. By shifting their attacks to cities, they gave the RAF something precious. Time. Time to repair airfields. Time to regroup. Time to breathe. And slowly, the balance began to change. RAF pilots became sharper, more experienced, more confident. They knew the sky now. They understood the enemy. And they started hitting back harder. German losses began to rise. More planes shot down. More pilots lost. And for the first time, doubt crept in. The Luftwaffe had expected an easy victory. But this was something else. Something they hadn't planned for. Determination. Because Britain refused to break. There's a moment often remembered. A speech. Words spoken not just to inspire, but to capture what was happening. Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. Those few were the pilots. The ones in the sky, fighting every single day. By September 1940, the tide had turned. The Luftwaffe was losing strength. Planes were fewer, attacks less effective. And then it happened. The invasion never came. Hitler postponed it, then canceled it. Britain had survived, not because they were stronger, not because they had more resources, but because they held on. Because a group of young pilots refused to give up. The sky, once filled with fear, became a symbol of resistance. And even today, if you look up, you won't see the battle. But it happened, right there, above the clouds, where courage met fear, where ordinary people did extraordinary things, and where the fate of the world hung in the balance. Ending, emotional, close, reflective tone. Next time you hear a plane overhead, just pause for a second, look up, and remember, there was a time when that sound meant life or death, when the sky wasn't peaceful. It was a battlefield, and a few brave souls made sure that battle was won. If they hadn't, history would look very different today.